Welcome to my channel, The World of Science Fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
The metal screamed first. Kyle's palms had stopped bleeding an hour ago, but the skin kept splitting anyway, each pull of the ore crate opening fresh lines across calluses that had turned to leather. The quarry of Kestis 4 shimmered under its binary star system, heat rolling off stone in visible waves. 200 meters down, the air tasted like copper in desperation. He didn't look up anymore. Looking up meant seeing the towers, sleek, climate-controlled observation posts where the overseers watched through tinted glass. Looking up meant remembering he'd once designed systems like those. Now he was inventory. Prisoner 4721. An engineer who'd asked the wrong questions about fuel efficiency and found himself on a labor transport 3 days later. The crate caught on a rock. He yanked, felt something tear in his shoulder, kept pulling. Movement. Peripheral. Wrong. Kyle froze, scanning the boulder field to his left. Nothing moved in the quarry except slaves and guards didn't hide. There, behind the split boulder, blue. Not sky blue. Deeper. The color of deep ocean trenches. He glanced at the nearest tower. 400 meters. The guards wouldn't see into the rocks from that angle. Wouldn't care if they did. Heat exhaustion claimed 2 or 3 prisoners a week. One more body was paperwork, nothing more. Kyle left his crate, moved toward the boulder, legs unsteady. She was crumpled against stone like discarded armor. Because she was wearing armor, or had been, black composite plating, cracked across the torso, one pauldron hanging by synthetic fibers. Her skin was blue, not painted, not tattooed, but naturally azure. Darker along the ridges of her cheekbones and the exposed muscle of her arms. Black blood pooled beneath her, mixing with the red dust into something that looked like rust. Xylar. Had to be. The warrior species from the Outer Rim, the ones who'd been fighting the Terran Coalition for 3 decades, the ones whose prisoners never survived interrogation because they had a gland that released fatal toxins rather than allow capture. Except she was still breathing. Barely. Her chest rose and fell in shallow, irregular stutters. One eye was swollen shut. The other stared at nothing, pupils dilated and unresponsive. Kyle's hand went to his belt. The canteen. Aluminum dented, half the size of his fist. He unscrewed the cap, tilted it. 2 gulps of water sloshed inside. Maybe 3 if he was careful. Next ration, 24 hours from now at evening count, if he was still standing. He looked at her. Looked at the guard towers, looked at his canteen. The Xylar had killed millions of humans, glassed entire colonies. Their shock troops were trained from childhood to view mercy as disease, compassion as weakness. They didn't take prisoners, didn't negotiate, didn't surrender. But she had a pulse, and he could feel dehydration pulling at his own thoughts like gravity. Kyle knelt, his knees cracked against stone. He tilted the canteen over her lips. 1 drop fell, caught the corner of her mouth, slid across blue skin. 2 drops. 3. The last one hissed against her cracked lips like rain on hot stone, evaporating almost instantly. He screwed the cap back on. His tongue felt swollen, foreign in his mouth. When he stood to leave, her eyes snapped open. Not slowly. Not with confusion or gratitude. They opened like weapons being drawn. Sharp, immediate, fully aware. And they weren't looking at him with thanks. They were furious. "You're an idiot." The words came out raw, shredded by thirst, but clear. Kyle had made it maybe 10 steps before his legs gave out. He'd crawled into the shade of the boulder, pressed his back against stone that still held the day's heat like a furnace. His mouth tasted like iron and salt. The Xylar woman hadn't moved. Couldn't, probably. But her eyes tracked him with predator focus. "I see someone dying," Kyle said. His voice came out as a whisper. "That's enough." She made a sound that might have been a laugh or a growl. Her hand moved, slowly, painfully, to the wound in her side. When she pulled her palm away, the gash had sealed. Not healed, sealed. A pale scar tissue had formed across what should have been a fatal injury, knitting together in the minutes since he'd given her water. "Your kind thinks mercy is strength." Each word cost her effort. "It's infection." Kyle let his head fall back against the boulder. The quarry spun lazily. At least it still hurts. The ground shook. It started as a vibration. Something felt in the teeth and sternum before the ears registered sound. Then came the pressure wave, a wall of force that made the air itself seem solid. The northern ridge erupted, not metaphorically. 1 second it was there, a jagged line of red stone against white sky. The next it was a pillar of fire and debris, a mushroom cloud that rose and kept rising, blocking out the suns. Alarms shrieked across the quarry. Guard towers lit up, spotlights cutting through sudden shadow, voices over loudspeakers, shouting orders that were immediately drowned out by secondary explosions. Sirens layered over sirens, an audio assault that made thought impossible. Kyle tried to stand. Couldn't. His legs wouldn't respond. The dust came next. A wall of it, 50 meters high, rolling across the quarry floor like surf. He could see it swallowing prisoners in the open, turning them into shadows, then nothing. The Xyler woman was moving. Somehow, impossibly, she'd gotten to her feet, swaying, one hand pressed to her side but standing. She turned toward him. Not with anger now. Something else. Something that might have been alarm, or recognition, or calculation. She took a step toward him. The dust hit. The world went black, then red, then nothing at all. Pain woke him. Not the dull ache of exhaustion or dehydration, but sharp, immediate pain in his ribs, his shoulder, the side of his head. Kyle gasped, choked on dust, tried to move. Couldn't. Rock pressed against him from above and both sides. Not completely buried. He could feel air moving, but trapped. The emergency lighting system must have survived. A faint blue glow pulsed somewhere to his left, rhythmic as a heartbeat. He tried to call out. His throat was too dry. The sound came out as a rasp, movement. A shadow crossed the blue light. Deliberate, controlled. So we died together. The Xyler woman's voice, flat, matter of fact. Your sacrifice buys nothing. She was standing, crouched probably. The ceiling of wherever they were couldn't be more than 2 meters high, but mobile. Her enhanced biology had already metabolized the water, accelerated her healing, pulled her back from the edge of death, while he could barely breathe. Not yet, Kyle croaked. What? He couldn't point. His arm was pinned, so he jerked his head to the right. Drill! She followed his gaze. A mining drill, half buried in collapsed rock. Heavy-duty percussion model, designed to punch through granite. Solar-powered, which meant useless down here except... Battery pack, Kyle whispered. Still charge, can punch through... Collapse. You can't reach it. No, you can. She didn't move. Why would I? Because you're not dead yet either. Silence. Just the pulse of the emergency light and the sound of his own breathing, getting shallower. Then she moved. Kyle couldn't see clearly. Dust and darkness and his own failing vision. But he heard her moving. Heard rock scraping, something metallic clattering, her breathing harsh but steady. There's a control panel, he said. Left side, red wire to green terminal, yellow wire to... I don't know your machines. Then I'll have to do it. You can't move. Pull me out. Another pause. Longer. Then hands on his shoulders. Strong hands. She yanked, and the rock shifted, and something in his chest felt like it cracked. But suddenly he could move his arms. He crawled. Each movement was agony. Ribs definitely broken. Maybe a punctured lung. Hard to tell. His fingers found the drill. Found the control panel. Found wires by feel because his eyes wouldn't focus anymore. Red to green. He connected them. The battery pack hummed to life. Yellow to black. The drill head began to spin, slow at first. He needed one more connection. Blue to bare metal. But his hands were shaking too badly, and the terminals were small, and... His finger slipped. Touched both terminals at once. The arc was blue-white and beautiful. It threw him against the wall like he weighed nothing. Every muscle in his body contracted simultaneously. He felt his teeth crack, tasted copper. Then his heart stopped. He knew it stopped because everything stopped. The pain, the fear, the desperate scrambling thoughts. Just nothing. Darkness deeper than the collapsed tunnel. Something hit him in the chest, hard, precisely. Again. His heart lurched, stuttered, beat. Air rushed into his lungs like fire. He gasped, eyes flying open, and saw her face inches from his own. She hit him again. Chest, neck, chest. The blows were brutal, measured, timed. Not CPR the way humans did it. Psylar combat resuscitation. Strikes designed to restart organ function through precise trauma. His heart caught, held rhythm. She stopped hitting him. They stayed like that. Her crouched over him, both hands on his chest, his eyes locked on hers. No pity in her expression, no fear, just recognition. The drill screamed to life behind them, tearing through rock. And from somewhere above, from a speaker Kyle hadn't known was there, a voice purred, "Well, 2 survivors. How curious." The voice was smooth, almost kind, the sort of voice that belonged to someone who'd never had to raise it to be obeyed. "Quite the partnership we have developing. The dying human who gives water. The Xylar warrior who can't quite abandon him. How inefficient." Kyle tried to sit up. Failed. The Xylar woman, he still didn't know her name, was already on her feet, scanning the ceiling. "Observation system," she said. "Military grade. Whoever runs this facility is watching everything." "Everything," Kyle managed. "Everything that matters." The drill had punched through 3 meters of collapsed rock, creating a gap just wide enough for a body. Beyond it, Kyle could see more tunnel, more emergency lighting, a way out, or a way deeper in. "Move," she said. "I can't." "You will, or you'll die here." "Pretty sure. I'm dying anyway." She grabbed his arm, hauled him up. He screamed, couldn't help it, as broken ribs ground together. But she didn't let go, just dragged him toward the gap the drill had made. "Your choice," she said. "Die quietly or die trying." They went through. The tunnel beyond was intact. Blast doors at both ends, sealed. The emergency lighting here was stronger, casting everything in harsh white. Medical bay, Kyle realized. Or had been. Now the beds were overturned, equipment shattered, supply cabinets hanging open and empty. "Looted," the Xylar woman said. "After the explosion, before the lockdown." "How do you—" The loudspeaker crackled. A different location, but the same voice. "I should introduce myself. Warden Kellis. I run this facility, or I did, before your little escape attempt destroyed 3 levels and killed 47 staff members." Kyle's vision blurred. "Wasn't us. Wasn't you specifically? No. But the Xylar resistance ship that crashed into our mining operation 6 hours ago? That was certainly intentional. And you," a pause, almost amused, "you just happened to be in position to save one of their warriors." The Xylar woman's expression didn't change, but her hand moved to her side, where the wound had been. "Rhea," the warden said. "That's your name, isn't it? Lance Commander Rhea Sethek, the Butcher of Callisto Station. 2,000 human colonists. You burned them all." Kyle looked at her. She didn't look away. "Necessary targets," she said quietly. "They were families. They were building a weapons platform. In a residential district." "Enough!" The warden's voice cut through. "You can kill each other after you answer my questions. Separately, of course. We'll start with simple ones." The blast door at the north end opened. Guards poured through. 6 of them, body armor and shock batons, moving in formation. Kyle tried to step back. His legs folded. He hit the floor. Rhea moved. Even injured, even half dead an hour ago, she moved like violence itself. She caught the first guard's baton, twisted, drove the live end into his throat, used his convulsing body as a shield while she disarmed the second, spin-kicked the third, caught the force helmet with both hands and slammed it into the wall hard enough to crack composite. The 5th guard got his baton up, connected with her ribs. She grunted, staggered. The 6th guard raised his weapon, not a baton, a rifle, and Kyle saw his finger tighten on the trigger. "Stop!" The warden's voice. Every guard froze. "Lower your weapons. Walk away. I want them both intact." The guards hesitated. "Now." They retreated through the blast door. It sealed behind them. Rhea sagged against the wall, one hand pressed to her ribs. The blow had reopened something. Blue blood seeped between her fingers. "You see?" the warden said. "I can protect you, or I can expose you. Your choice." The southern blast door opened. Beyond it, darkness, and the sound of machinery, heavy, industrial, the kind that moved tons of rock or flesh without distinction. "Walk forward," the warden said. "Both of you. We're going to have a conversation." They separated them. Kyle found himself in a cell, real cell, not just a collapsed tunnel, with white walls and bright lights that never turned off. No windows, no vents, just a drain in the floor and a speaker in the ceiling. He sat against the wall because standing hurt too much. The warden's voice came after what might have been an hour, or 10 minutes. Time felt elastic. "Tell me about her." Kyle's throat was too dry to answer. "The Xyler warrior, Rhea. How long have you been working with her?" "Not working. You gave her your water. She was dying. So are millions of humans. You could have let her die and had enough water to survive another day. But you didn't. Why?" Kyle's head was swimming. He tried to focus on the drain, on anything solid. "Because," he managed, "it hurts." "What hurts?" "Seeing someone die, when you can stop it." Silence. Then, "She wouldn't have done the same for you. You know that, don't you?" Xyler physiology makes them view human compassion as a weakness, a defect. "She's probably disgusted by what you did." Kyle didn't answer. "Tell me what she dreams about," the warden said. "What she talks about when she thinks no one's listening. Where her ship was going before it crashed. Give me that, and I'll give you water, food, medical attention, a cell with a bed instead of a drain." Kyle closed his eyes. "Or don't," the warden continued, "and I'll leave you here until your kidneys fail. Then I'll tell her you gave me everything I asked for anyway. How do you think she'll react to that?" The speaker clicked off. In the silence, Kyle heard something else. Faint, almost imperceptible. Water dripping, not real water. A recording, maybe, or his own hallucination. But he heard it like the ghost of his canteen, the last drops falling onto blue lips. Somewhere else in the facility, Kyle had no way to know if it was next door or kilometers away. Rhea sat under different lights, brighter, hotter, positioned to cast no shadows, to eliminate any dark corner where the mind could find rest. She didn't close her eyes. The warden's voice came from everywhere at once. "Your human friend broke protocol, saved you instead of himself. The coalition has very specific policies about aiding enemy combatants. Execution policies." Rhea's expression didn't change. "But I can make exceptions, if you give me the coordinates." "What coordinates?" "Your ship. Before it crashed, it was transmitting. Encrypted burst, high priority. I want to know where it was going. Give me that, and I'll release him. Medical transport to a civilian facility. He'll never see another labor camp." Rhea stared at the speaker. "You don't believe me," the warden said. "That's smart. But consider, I don't need his cooperation. He's inventory. But you're a lance commander. Your tactical knowledge is worth 10 human engineers. Work with me, and you both walk out of here." Silence. "Or don't," the warden continued, "and I'll tell him you gave me the coordinates anyway. Then I'll put you both back in the same cell and see what happens. Do you think he'll trust you after that? Do you think he should?" The light grew brighter, hot enough that Rhea felt her skin begin to burn. "You have 1 hour." The speaker clicked off. In the silence, Rhea heard something she hadn't heard in years. Water dripping, like rain on stone, like the last 3 drops from a human's canteen, falling onto her lips when she should have been left to die. She didn't know if he could hear her through the vents or the walls, or if she was just talking to herself. But she whispered anyway, "Don't call it weakness." Kyle made chaos his ally. The idea came slowly, through pain and dehydration and the lights that never stopped burning. But it came. They'd separated him and Rhea to break down trust, to turn them against each other through isolation and lies. Classic interrogation, which meant they were in the same facility, probably close together because the warden would want to maintain observation, to orchestrate confrontations. And every facility had systems, life support, climate control, power distribution, systems that could fail. Kyle pushed himself to his feet. Every movement sent fire through his ribs, but he stayed standing, walked to the wall, put his ear against it, There, faint but present, the hum of ventilation, which meant ducts, which meant access panels. He ran his fingers along the seam where wall met ceiling, found it. Composite sheeting held in place by magnetic locks. Standard construction, because even prisons needed maintenance. He pressed his thumb against the lock sensor. Nothing happened. Right. Biometric security. He wasn't authorized, but he was an engineer, had been an engineer. Before they had made him inventory, he'd designed power systems for orbital stations. He'd reverse engineered alien technology. He'd built things that shouldn't work and made them work anyway. And right now, in a cell with white walls and a speaker and a drain, he had one resource: himself. He knelt by the drain. The grate was metal, corroded by whatever chemicals they used to clean the cells. He worked it loose with his fingers, skin tearing, nails breaking, until it came free. Beneath the grate, pipes, old pipes, the kind that carried more than just waste. He reached in, found the power conduit running parallel to the drain system. Common design flaw, running different infrastructure through the same channel to save on construction costs. He grabbed the conduit, yanked. The cell lights flickered. He yanked harder. The lights went out. Emergency systems kicked in, backup power, rerouting electricity through secondary channels. The process took 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, every magnetic lock in the cell released, including the access panel. Kyle climbed. His ribs screamed. His hands couldn't grip properly, but he pulled himself up into the duct, into darkness that smelled like recycled air and rust. And he didn't run for freedom. He ran for her. The ductwork was a maze, but Kyle had built mazes before. He followed the airflow, tracked the sound of machinery, mapped the facility in his head. Interrogation cells would be isolated but accessible. High security but not completely sealed, because they needed guards to respond quickly if a prisoner became violent or tried self-harm. He found her cell by listening. Not for voices, the warden had gone quiet, but for the absence of them. One section of duct carried the sound of activity. Guards talking, equipment running, normal facility operation. But one branch carried only silence and the hum of bright lights. Kyle crawled until he found the access panel above her cell. Looked down through the grate. She was chained, not restrained, chained. Heavy links anchored to the floor, holding her in the center of the cell where the lights were brightest. Her blue skin looked pale under the glare. Burns along her arms and face where the heat had been too much, even for Xyler biology. But she wasn't broken. Her eyes were open, tracking the walls, the speaker, calculating. Kyle worked the panel loose, dropped down. She spun toward him, chains pulling tight. Her expression was pure survival instinct. Identify the threat, determine the response. Then she recognized him. "You're supposed to be contained," she said. "Yeah, change of plans." He moved to the chains. They were locked with a biometric pad, same as the access panel. But the emergency power fluctuation had scrambled the security protocols. Kyle pressed the override sequence, muscle memory from a life he used to have, and the chains released. Rhea stood, swayed once, then steady. "Guards are coming," she said. "I know." "How many?" "Don't know. Doesn't matter." "It always matters." "Not this time." He moved to the door. "This time we go deeper." She stared at him. "What?" "The warden wants us to run, wants to hunt us, break us down, make us turn on each other. So we don't run." "Then what?" "We take the ship." Rhea's expression didn't change for 3 full seconds. Then, "What ship?" "The one you crashed in. It didn't explode. I heard the warden reference it, which means it's intact enough to be valuable, which means it's here, in this facility, probably in a secured hangar, being examined and stripped for intelligence. And you think we can just walk in and take it?" "No, I think we can break in, kill anyone who stops us, and take it." She studied him, his broken body, his bleeding hands, his eyes that couldn't quite focus. "You'll die." "Probably, but I'm dying anyway. Might as well make it count." Footsteps in the corridor outside, running footsteps, lots of them. Rhea glanced at the door, then back at Kyle. "You held them off once," she said, "when you could have run." "Not without you." She moved, grabbed his arm, not gently but not violently either, pulled him toward the back wall. "Then we go deeper," she said, "together." They didn't go through the door. Rhea kicked the back wall, once, twice, 3 times, until the composite cracked. The material was designed to resist cutting tools and blunt force, but not repeated impact from someone with Xylar muscle density. The wall gave way. Beyond it, darkness. Utility tunnel, probably. Service access for maintenance crews. They went through as the cell door exploded inward. Guards poured in. Shock batons, rifles, tactical lights cutting through the dark. But Rhea and Kyle were already gone, dropping into the tunnel, landing hard on metal grating. Kyle felt something crack in his ankle, ignored it, limped after Rhea as she moved through the darkness like she'd memorized the layout. "You know where you're going?" he gasped. "No, but down is always deeper." They descended, past power conduits and coolant lines, past sealed hatches and locked doors. The facility opened up around them like a throat swallowing them down, and then the tunnel ended. Not at another door or another level, but at a vault door, 3 meters high, reinforced durasteel, with a security panel that looked military grade. "This isn't a prison," Rhea said quietly. "What?" "This facility. It's not just a labor camp. The security's wrong. The architecture's wrong." She touched the vault door. "This is a black site." Kyle leaned against the wall, trying to breathe through broken ribs. "What's the difference? Labor camps process prisoners. Black sites hide things the coalition doesn't want anyone to know about." "Like what?" Rhea didn't answer. She was studying the security panel, running her fingers along the edges. "Can you open it?" Kyle asked. "Not without the right authorization." "I can get authorization." "How?" He pointed at the security camera mounted above the door. The red light was on, steady and watchful. "Hey, Warden," Kyle said to the camera. "We found your secret." For 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then the vault door opened. The space beyond wasn't an office. It was a cavern. Not natural, carved out of bedrock, expanded and reinforced with support columns that rose into darkness, but big enough that Kyle's voice echoed when he whispered, "What is this place?" Light bloomed in the center of the cavern. Not gradual, not atmospheric. All at once, like someone had flipped a switch and revealed a sun. And in the center of that light, perfect and black and silent as a held breath, was a ship. Not Rhea's ship. Not the crash transport that had brought her here. This was something else entirely. An automated voice cut through the cavern. "Lockdown protocols activated. Blast doors sealing in 90 seconds. "Move," Rhea said, already running toward the ship. Kyle limped after her. "What is it?" "The Liberator. Every fleet in the galaxy has been hunting it for 3 years." They reached the hull. Rhea pressed her palm against the access panel. The ship woke. Panels lit up. Blue, cold, beautiful. The ramp descended. 75 seconds, the automated voice announced. Inside, the cockpit was pristine. Rhea slid into the pilot's seat, hands moving across controls. Kyle dropped into the co-pilot position and saw the problem immediately. "This isn't pure Xylar engineering," he said. "Half these systems are running Terran architecture. Someone built a hybrid." 60 seconds. Rhea stared at the armrest of the captain's chair. A small symbol was etched there. A circle. A droplet of water. Her fingers traced it. A symbol from before the war, when both species tried to understand each other instead of kill each other. She looked at Kyle. One word, quiet, almost tender. "Yours?" He smiled, cracked lips, bleeding. "Alive." "Ours." 45 seconds. Outside, sirens wailed. Guards rappelled down from catwalks, emerging from tunnels surrounding the ship. 30 seconds. Outside, sirens wailed. Guards rappelled down from catwalks, emerging from tunnels surrounding the ship. 30 seconds. Rhea's hands moved across the controls. "Can you handle power distribution? If you can tell me what you need." "Everything, all at once." Kyle pulled up the power management system. Saw the problem immediately. The ship had been dormant for years. Systems shut down to avoid detection. Bringing everything online simultaneously would require a careful sequence, balancing load across multiple reactors or... "How fast do we need to go?" he asked. "Faster than they can shoot." Kyle made a decision. Threw every safety protocol aside and dumped full power to the engines and shields at once. The ship screamed to life. Every system lit up. The shields snapped on with a sound like thunder. The engines howled, raw power with nowhere to go. "Ramp," Rhea said. Kyle hit the control. The access ramp retracted. Gunfire erupted outside. Bullets sparked off the shields, absorbed by energy fields that held. "Tell me this thing can fly in atmosphere," Kyle said. "It's designed for space. But can it fly here?" "We're about to find out." Rhea's hands moved. The ship lifted. Not smoothly, not gracefully. It bucked and shuddered, fighting artificial gravity, fighting air resistance, fighting every law of physics that said something this heavy shouldn't be able to move. But it moved, up, away from the cavern floor. The guards scattered, diving for cover as the ship's engines scorched the ground beneath. "Exit?" Rhea asked. Kyle pulled up schematics. The ship's sensors were reading the facility structure, mapping it in real time. There. A launch tube, straight up through 200 meters of bedrock and fortifications, sealed at the top by blast doors designed to withstand orbital bombardment. "Can't blast through," Kyle said. "Doors are too strong." "Can you open them?" "Not from here." "Then I'll make a door." She didn't ask if he was ready, just hit the throttle. The ship surged forward and up. The launch tube swallowed them, walls screaming past on all sides. Kyle saw maintenance scaffolding, weapons emplacements, guard posts, all of it blurring into a tunnel of light and metal. The blast doors rushed toward them. "Shield to forward," Kyle said. "All power." Rhea redirected without hesitation. The ship's entire defensive grid collapsed to a single point at the bow, a battering ram of pure energy. They hit the blast doors at 400 meters per second. The doors shattered. Metal screamed. The ship screamed. Kyle felt himself pressed back into the seat as G-forces tried to turn his organs into paste. Then they were through. Open sky. Two pale suns. Air that wasn't recycled, wasn't filtered, just infinite. Kyle couldn't breathe. Not from the altitude or the speed, but from the sight of it. Freedom, real and sudden and terrifying. "Incoming," Rhea said. The sensors showed 3 coalition fighters breaking atmosphere, climbing fast. Military craft armed with missiles designed to tear ships like this apart. "Can we outrun them?" Kyle asked. "Not in atmosphere. Too much drag." Rhea's hands moved across the weapon systems. "Can you target?" Kyle pulled up the targeting interface, saw immediately that it was designed for Xylar reflexes. Response times measured in milliseconds. Targeting solutions that assumed the operator could track multiple vectors simultaneously. "I'm human," he said. "I can't." "Then help me fly and I'll shoot." They swapped roles without discussion. Kyle took the flight controls, felt the ship respond to his touch like a living thing. Rhea brought the weapons online, plasma cannons that glowed with barely contained violence. The first fighter fired. Missiles streaked toward them, 8 contrails painting the sky. Kyle dove. The ship responded instantly, dropping 500 meters in 2 seconds. The missiles followed, course-correcting, closing. "Countermeasures," Rhea said. "Don't have any. This thing was built for stealth, not dogfighting." "Then don't get hit." Kyle pulled hard right, then up, threading between 2 missiles that exploded where he'd been a heartbeat before. The shock waves buffeted the ship, but the shields held. Rhea fired. The plasma cannons lit up the sky. Blue bolts that moved faster than Kyle could track, faster than the fighters could evade. One caught the lead fighter dead center. The craft came apart in a ball of flame and debris. 2 left. They split, flanking maneuver. Kyle saw it coming but couldn't counter. In atmosphere, the ship was fast but not agile. He couldn't outturn them. "Going up," he said. He pulled the nose vertical and hit full throttle. The ship climbed. G-forces crushed them both into their seats. Kyle's vision tunneled, gray creeping in from the edges. His broken ribs felt like they were caving in, but they climbed. Through the clouds, through the troposphere, toward the black between stars. The fighters followed, but slower. They weren't built for this. Weren't built to chase something that could transition from atmospheric flight to space combat in under a minute. Kyle felt the moment they broke free of gravity's grip. The ship steadied, stopped fighting, became graceful. "Now," Rhea said. Kyle flipped the ship, oriented back toward Kestis IV, toward the 2 fighters still climbing. Rhea fired. At this range and vacuum, the plasma bolts were unavoidable. Both fighters died before they could even alter course. Silence. Just the hum of the ship's systems and their own breathing. "We did it," Kyle said. "Not yet." Rhea was already pulling up star charts, navigation data. The coalition will be tracking us. Every ship in the sector will be hunting us within the hour. Where do we go? Away from coalition space, into the rim territories where their authority is thin and their ships are few. That's Xyler space. Yes. Kyle looked at her, at the woman who'd been an enemy, a prisoner, a warrior he'd given water to when all logic said he should let her die. Will they accept me? He asked. I don't know. My people don't view humans with mercy. But you do. She met his eyes. You changed something. When you gave me that water, you showed me that the infection your people carry, the sickness of caring for others even when it costs everything, maybe it's not a weakness. What is it then? I don't know yet, but I want to find out. Kyle leaned back in the co-pilot seat. Every part of his body hurt. He was probably going to die from internal bleeding or infection or any of a dozen injuries before they reached wherever they were going. But he was alive, and he wasn't alone. Tell me your name, he said. Your real name, not your rank. She glanced at him. Rhea. Just Rhea. Kyle. Just Kyle. You gave me water. Just Kyle. You gave me sky. Just Rhea. Outside the viewport, stars wheeled past. Infinite possibilities. Infinite dangers. But for now, for this moment, they had a ship that represented the dream of two species working together. They had each other. They had a choice between running towards something instead of just running away. Rhea's hand moved to the symbol on the armrest. The water droplet, the promise of mercy. She looked at Kyle, the man who'd given his last drink to an enemy, who'd crawled through fire to save her, who'd thrown away survival for the slim hope of something better. Her hand brushed his, just for a moment, long enough to acknowledge what had passed between them in that quarry, in that collapse, in every choice since. Where to? She asked. Kyle pulled up the star charts, saw the vastness of space, the territories and borders that meant something to governments but nothing to stars. Somewhere we can figure out what this means, he said, indicating the ship, the symbol, the two of them together in a vessel built by people who'd believed in possibility. That could take a lifetime. Good thing we've got time. Rhea allowed herself something that wasn't quite a smile but was close. The coalition will hunt us. Let them. My people will call me a traitor. Maybe you are. And you? What will your people call you? Kyle thought about the other prisoners in that quarry. Thought about the guards, the overseers, the society that had turned him from engineer to inventory because he'd asked inconvenient questions. Don't know, he said. Don't care. Rhea programmed the jump coordinates. The ship's faster-than-light drive began to charge, a sound like distant thunder. Building. The ship has no name, she said. The engineers who built it never finished that part. What should we call it? She looked at the symbol on the armrest, at the water droplet that represented the moment everything changed. The last drop, she said. Kyle nodded. Yeah, that fits. The FTL drive reached full charge. Reality bent around them, space folding in ways that shouldn't be possible, but were. Ready? Rhea asked. Kyle took a breath, felt his broken ribs, his shattered ankle, his bleeding hands. Felt alive in a way he hadn't felt since before they'd made him a number. Ready. Rhea hit the jump. The universe disappeared, and when it came back, they were somewhere new, somewhere the coalition couldn't track, somewhere between the territories in the spaces where maps grew vague and possibilities multiplied. They were wounded. They were hunted. They had no allies, no resources, no plan beyond survival, but they had each other. And they had a ship that proved something both species needed to remember, that mercy wasn't weakness, that caring wasn't infection, that giving someone your last drop of water might be the most powerful thing anyone could do. Kyle looked at Rhea. Rhea looked at Kyle, and neither of them looked away. The stars burned cold and bright and endless, and for the first time in either of their lives, that felt like hope. The jump sickness hit Kyle 30 seconds after they dropped out of FTL. He barely made it to the small sanitation unit before his body emptied itself. Everything he didn't have to spare, everything that proved he was still human and fragile, and absolutely not designed for faster-than-light travel. When he stumbled back to the cockpit, Rhea was running diagnostics. She didn't look up. First jump, she asked. Yeah. It gets easier. Does it really? No, but you learn to function through it. Kyle lowered himself into the co-pilot seat. Every movement sent fresh waves of pain through broken bones, torn muscles, injuries that should have killed him, but somehow hadn't. I need medical attention, he said. Yes. Soon? Yes. How soon? Rhea pulled up a holographic display, star charts, system data, navigation overlays. There's a Station 4 jumps from here. Neutral territory. The Coalition and the Xylar Alliance both tolerate it because they both use it for intelligence trading and back-channel negotiations. Will they have medical facilities? They'll have everything, for a price. Kyle checked the ship's systems. What do we have to trade? Each other's knowledge. You understand Coalition technology. I understand Xylar tactics. People will pay for that information. And if they decide we're worth more as prisoners, turn us over to the highest bidder, then we fight our way out. Kyle looked at her, at the certainty in her expression, the way she said we like it was already decided, already permanent. You could just take the ship, he said. Leave me at the station. Return to your people as a hero who stole the Liberator back from the Coalition. Rhea's hand stilled on the controls. Is that what you want? No, but it's logical. I'm a liability. I'm injured, I'm human, and I don't know anything about Xylar space or how to survive there. You knew enough to escape a black site, to find me when you could have saved yourself, to fly this ship when I needed you to. That was survival. This is different. How? Kyle didn't have an answer. Or he did, but it was tangled up with the sight of her eyes opening in that quarry, with her hands on his chest restarting his heart, with every moment since when they'd chosen each other over easier options. You gave me water, Rhea said quietly. Not because you expected something in return. Not because you thought I would help you, but because you saw someone dying and you couldn't stand it. You're still disgusted by that. I was. In that moment, I was. My training, my entire culture, told me you were weak, that mercy was infection. And now? She turned to face him fully. The cockpit lights caught her features. Blue skin, silver eyes, the burns from the interrogation cell already healing into pale scars. Now I think maybe my culture is wrong. Maybe the Coalition is wrong. Maybe this war has gone on so long that both species forgot there was ever another option. She gestured to the ship around them. Someone built this. Someone from both species worked together to prove cooperation was possible. And then the war swallowed them, and the ship was hidden, and everyone forgot. Except us. Except us. Kyle leaned back, closed his eyes against the pain. I'm going to pass out soon. Blood loss or organ failure or just general system shutdown? I know. If I don't wake up, you will. But if I don't blame yourself. You've already saved my life 3 times. That's more than I had any right to expect. Rhea stood, moved to his seat, pressed her hand to his forehead, checking his temperature probably, or running through some Xylar medical assessment he didn't understand. Her hand was cool, steady. You're not dying, she said. Not yet. I won't allow it. Pretty sure biology doesn't care what you allow. Then I'll fight biology. I fought worse. Kyle opened his eyes. Why? Because you gave me water when you had none to spare. Because you came back for me when you could have escaped. Because someone needs to prove that the infection you carry, caring for others, isn't a weakness. She pulled her hand back. And because I've decided I want to learn what it means. Kyle felt something shift in his chest. Not physical pain this time. Something else. Something that felt like the opposite of dying. 4 jumps? He asked. Yes. I can last 4 jumps. I know you can. She returned to the pilot's seat. Her hands moved across the controls, preparing the next jump. Kyle watched her work. Efficient, precise, every movement practiced until it was instinct. Rhea, he said. Yes? Thank you. She glanced at him. For what? For not leaving me behind. Her expression softened. Just slightly. Just enough. Thank you for the water, Kyle. The FTL drive began to charge again. Kyle let his eyes close, felt the ship around him, humming with power and possibility. Felt Rhea's presence, solid and real and committed to keeping him alive. Felt hope, The universe folded. They jumped. And Kyle held on, broken but breathing, human but not alone, carrying the infection of mercy into a galaxy that had forgotten what it meant. Somewhere behind them, the coalition scrambled ships and sent out alerts. Somewhere ahead, the station waited, neutral ground where anything could be bought or sold, including their lives. But between those points in the folded space of FTL travel, there was just the ship, just two people from species at war, just the choice to keep choosing each other when everything else said they should be enemies. The Liberator carried them forward, and on the armrest of the captain's chair, a single symbol caught the light, a droplet of water, the last drop, the first promise, the beginning of something neither species had dared to dream was possible.